Got a little citizen ghetto blaster at that estate, and I normally wouldn't give this thing a second look, but it has some features on it that most don't, including a magnetic phono preamp, and it has shortwave as well as AM/FM. Let's check it out. Well, this time we're going to look at this little citizen mini system that I found at that estate, and I thought this is kind of a unique piece because it's not only got AM and FM, but it also has shortwave. Now, it's unlikely I'm going to pick up any shortwave here with just the built-in rod antenna. In fact, I can guarantee you that there probably won't be any shortwave right now because, well, we're not in a very good sunspot cycle for one. But the reception inside here, with all the interference that we get from various electronics, is going to make reception impossible unless I put a large antenna on it. So I'm not even going to try the shortwave, but let's check out the rest of it, and we'll take a look and see whether it's working or not properly. One thing that's neat about this that I noticed is on the back, it's got an auxiliary input, but it says phono line in, and it's got an earth terminal. So I'm curious, does this have a magnetic cartridge preamp in it? I bet it does. I bet this has a magnetic cartridge preamp. You notice also on here, there's an antenna screw, which you would connect your external antenna to right there. It tells you what screw you remove to put a wire in there, an external antenna wire. And it's got two microphone inputs. If you notice, it says remote, so that you can control the tape deck with a remote control mic. And the second microphone has a hole, so that if you've got two mics with remotes, one of them would plug into there, and the other one would plug into there, if you were using two microphones. And that's about it on the back here. It's got a beat cut. It says say phono or line input. There's a switch on the back here. We're going to see whether this thing actually works. So first things first, I've got some speakers connected to it. Does the radio work on AM?
You're what now? My income.
Yes, it does.
By the homeowner to make the changes, or will be captured by the city and spent on creating rental housing. I
have the plan, cat long.
Go to FM.
Survivors have made to Canada. Thank you.
Tuner seems to be fairly sensitive for FM.
So,
We'll tune it down to my test frequency. There we go. Good stereo separation. Left channel. Has Dolby, and of course the function radio, tape, or phono line in. Supports metal, chrome, and normal tape. There's a switch over here for that. The knob is missing. Manual level control. Looks like the meters just show you your incoming signal until you're in a record mode, and then these become your record level controls. So it has manual level control, which means that this thing actually should work pretty good if the tape deck actually works. And unfortunately, it doesn't, because there's no movement whatsoever. So that's a good indication that there's probably a belt that's missing or melted or something. Oh, it's got two microphones built in too, so it can actually record stereo without without plugging an external microphone into it. Anyway, the tape deck's not working, so I think we'll take this thing apart and see whether we can make the tape deck work and see how it performs. You know, because that's what we do here, right? We take things apart. So in the back, there's 4 screws to remove it. It's made in Korea, by the way, by Jutan International Limited out of Toronto. It's also a dual voltage because there's an input selector switch here that selects between 110 and probably 240, and it'll take an external DC input. And I bet you that switch, I bet you this actually is a voltage selector switch, and it's not just there for show. I bet you if I flip that over, it will go to 220 volts, which it will. So this is a dual voltage unit, which means this thing has a lot of features that you know, people wouldn't have thought for something like this. let's take the unit apart. Be interesting to see the build quality of this. I think when the speakers were plugged into the side, yes, it also has DIN plugs on the side for speakers, you see? So if you've got DIN plugs, you can plug your speakers in, and that would have been for the speakers attached to the side, so they would automatically be connected, and then you had external speaker plugs on the unit itself. Of course, the things that are going to be checked out on this is, does this have a preamp, and how does it sound? So yes, I will be plugging this into a magnetic cartridge turntable. A system like this would actually be perfect for a garage or workshop. Just add a couple of speakers, because it's all self-contained and it can run off batteries as well as AC or even a DC input. So something like this would be perfect for a workshop or a garage. You can put up a couple of speakers and just have this unit, one little self-contained unit with everything built in, sitting there on your workbench. Look at that. Cool, huh? Just slides right out. The entire chassis just slides out on this unit, and everything probably plugs in. I think everything plugs in. It's got a big transformer in the back there, and fuses everywhere. There's fuses over here, and there's another fuse over there. Power supply, that's external power supply on this unit. And if I turn this over, I can get access to the tape deck, which is right down here. I wonder who made this for Jutan. No belt. That's obviously why it doesn't work. To separate this unit from the cabinet, I can just unplug the various connectors for the speakers and for the power and the phono ground. Here's our power. It's got a good 12 volt 2400 RPM counterclockwise motor in there. Already got an eye on that for fixing something else that might need a motor. But first things first, though, I'd like to see if I can get this tape deck to actually work. I may have a belt that will fit this. Remove that spring. This is the record switch spring. Let's remove that. Get that out of the way.
I was considering removing the mechanism at first, but then I realized all I have to do is take out these 3 screws that hold the back plate on, and the motor will come out and everything should be readily accessible. So why do things the hard way? Let's do things the easy way. This one should be a piece of cake to change the belts on. I don't know that I'm going to have some belts, so I'm just going to kind of inspect it right now, and we'll see whether I'm going to be able to change them today or not. But let's take a look under here and look at the build quality.
To get to in the corner here.
I'm liking that metal transport. Like, you don't see any plastic at all on this thing. And this was not an expensive unit. Citizen were considered to be cheap, right? These were considered to be the cheapest of the cheap. They were like Lloyd's, right? They were. We used to slam these ones all the time at work. People would come in with this crap, and we didn't even want to fix it.
There's 2 belts that are missing off this one. There's a belt that's turned to goo, and there's another belt that. So there's a belt that goes around the flywheel that drives this pulley, and there's actually, I guess there's 3 belts. There's another belt over here for the capsule, or is there 4 belts? I was looking to see, this one's okay. It looks like this belt's okay. That belt's okay. Looks like there's a belt that goes up here for the auto stop,
and another belt that goes around here, and it goes around the main pulley. So there's actually 2 belts I'm going to need to replace, and I doubt that I'm going to have them. Very unlikely that I'm going to have the belts. But let me just get this motor out of here so that we can take a look at how bad the gummed up pulley is. When this screw comes out, this back plate should lift off. Okay, this should lift out of the way now and reveal the mess that's under here. And there is the mess. So the belt wound around the motor, but we need one belt to go around the flywheel here, and that goes around these 2 pulleys as well. So it'll go from the flywheel around this pulley and then around this one. And then there's the capsule belt, which is going to be a flat belt, which goes between the flywheel here and the main motor, which, as you can see, has a belt wound all around it. Yum. Even though I would like to hear whether this tape deck actually works, I think I'm going to wash my hands of this one and not bother with the rebelting, just because, first of all, I don't know if I have a belt to fit it or not. I've cleaned off some of the crap that's on that pulley, but I don't know if I have a belt that will fit this or not. It's possible that I do, but then again, at the same time, it's possible that if I do have a belt that fits this, it might be also one that would fit something that I could actually make some money on it, since this is my unit and it's never ever going to get put back into service. I was just more curious about how the build on this was and whether I've actually got any parts that I can make use of for another repair, and that is affirmative. The motor on this, which is the part that is valuable, is viable for transplant, as the saying would go. So I'm going to put the unit back, put the chassis back together, and we'll test this thing out with the record player on it. Just to see how the built-in full preamp sounds, because it does have one. Now you might be wondering, why not just pull the motor out of it now? Which I could pull the motor out of it, but I think what I'll do is I'll leave the motor in here and just put it back together, because then at least I know it's got a good motor in it and I know where to find it. If I pull the motor and put the motor away, there's a real good chance that when I'm looking for the motor, I won't remember what I did with it. As that happens, right? You put something away, you figure, okay, I'm going to take this part out, I'm going to gut the parts, and I'm going to put the parts away so that I know where they are when I need them, and then when you need them, you can't find them. I got lots of parts that are like that, where I'll never find them. You know, I've got drawers full of boxes full of parts. The problem is when all those parts, get put away, it makes it hard to find them unless they're filed away with some type of filing system where you can look them up and see where they are, like if you have a warehouse, which I don't. So it makes a lot of sense just to leave things in the unit. It doesn't take long to pull this thing apart. If I need a motor, I can pull this thing apart in a matter of just a couple of minutes, because hey, there's only 4 screws. Forgot to put that spring back on for the record switch, which I'll do that just so that it's complete. But I can pull this thing apart in a couple of minutes, and I'll know where it is. So if I need to grab a motor, I'll know, okay, I got one in that little citizen unit, and it's sitting up on the shelf, so it's easy to find it.
And that's why I like to keep parts in the units themselves rather than take them out. Just makes finding things a little bit easier down the road. We used to do the same thing when I worked in the shop. If we had a parts unit, we used to have a storage room behind the shop. The shop that we had, the last shop that we had before I left, when I was with the company, we had 3 different stores. But the final location before I left, and even up to the point that the store closed, there was like an added on. It had been a hardware store before we were there, and they had put on the back, there had been like a storage, external storage unit where they would store things like propane tanks and stuff, right? Outside. It was all locked up. It was all, it was enclosed. It was in wood and it was locked up. So we used to throw all the junk in the back there where the rats and the mice and rain could get on it. We used to throw the stuff in the back that I would use to pick parts for storage, just to get them out of the way. But we kept everything intact so that if it was needed, you knew where to find it. Okay, I'm going to hook up a turntable to this and see whether it actually does have a preamp that works. I got one channel. There it is. It works. Okay, well, kind of grows on you, this record. It's one of the few I can get away with playing without pulling a copyright. This is a Langley Secondary School Concert Band, 1972. That guy there, that's my cousin on the horn. Not bad for what it is. Okay, the tape deck doesn't work on it, and I bet you if I put belts on that tape deck probably wouldn't sound bad because it has Dolby and it supports metal tape. And we know what's wrong with it. It just needs 2 belts. That's another reason why I haven't gutted it. But anyway, I wanted to get this thing set up and show you guys how it works, and hey, it does. And this has a feature that most of these mini systems did not have. It has a magnetic phono input, and that's something that you didn't see on any of these systems. A magnetic phono input. That makes this unit quite unique, to say the least. Hell, I know a lot of systems that didn't have a phono input at all.
the phono input just came back in the last couple of years. There's a lot of home stereo systems that don't have a phono input. I have one. One of my receivers I've got does not have a phono input because from the I guess the early 90s when phono when the turntable or the record fell out of style, that was the first thing to go was the phono preamp for a magnetic cartridge, and it didn't come back until about maybe 10 years ago, I guess, is when we started seeing receivers that had the magnetic input on them again. Because one of my systems that I've got, I actually have to use an external preamp because my amplifier does not have a preamp built in. And here we go. This portable system has a magnetic phono preamp. That is actually pretty cool. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.